Today we're digging into the US Defence Department's latest budget and what it means for people working in aerospace and defence roles, and specifically for additive manufacturing. We've got Jordan King here with us, our in-house expert to make sense of it all. Hello, Jordan.
Yes, hello, Jordan. How you doing?
Very well. So some big news really in terms of numbers. The Pentagon's 2026 budget request earmarks about $3.3 billion for projects involving AM. That's an 83% jump from the $1.8 billion in 2025. Now, it's spread across 16 programs, which are kind of ranging from rapid prototyping to industrial base sustainment. And it isn't just the cool lab projects. The Defence Secretary's ordered the Army to extend advanced manufacturing, including 3D printing, to operational units by 2026. So the message is clear. It's kind of here to stay, additive manufacturing.
Yeah, so it's nice to see, isn't it? I mean, additive manufacturing, 3D printing, it's been around as a technology for longer than most people think it has. And over those years, it's been utilized primarily as a demo technology, prototype technology. I mean, of course, there has been examples where, parts have been printed and certified and utilized in real world applications, but the majority of the industry for a long time was kind of running very quick, running, forward at such a pace that I think maybe it didn't pause to take a look around and think, what is the actual user case for our technology? What can we actually provide the market? And I think now, over the past few years, the technology has really matured, and the technology is moving more away from prototyping and demos to actual real world applications, which is reinforced by what you've just said, with regards to the defense budget. I mean, the defense budget itself is, I think it's one of the largest that the US has seen in a very long period of time. Obviously, that's natural given the geopolitical state of the world right now, and I'm sure defense budgets will continue to increase over the coming years. But it's nice to see that jump. Last year, you mentioned additive manufacturing for defense spending was around 1.8 billion. Well, this year it's targeted to be 3.3 billion. That's nearly 100% increase in spending specifically on additive manufacturing for defense applications, which reinforces that idea that highly regulated industries like defense, like aerospace, that have real world applications and may I add, important real world applications, are actually seeing the technology as a very viable thing to be utilizing now.
And how are you seeing that play out in terms of recruitment and in terms of the job market? Are you seeing people shifting from perhaps these more traditional forms of additive manufacturing, trying to use that expertise elsewhere?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, to understand that, I think we probably need to go further back and look at the implications on what it has on the market as a whole. So from a candidate perspective, it's a really positive thing. More money being pumped into additive manufacturing for defense projects means that there's more opportunity to be working within that market. So what you're going to see, and what has been the case for a good number of years, as a candidate-driven market, there's going to be plenty of opportunity, but not enough candidates to fill those roles. So two things happen off the back of that. One, what I've just said, it becomes a candidate-driven market. The candidate has a lot more power within the market to decide where they want to go, who they want to work for, what projects they want to touch. Obviously, then companies need to keep up with the demand for talent, which leads me on to my second point. From a recruitment standpoint, from a headhunting standpoint, it's obviously a very good thing as well, because it means there'll be a lot of opportunity in the marketplace for jobs and not enough candidates. So if you want to attract the best talent, you need to be utilizing a different method of approach to your recruitment than maybe let's just put a job up on a job board and hope that it attracts the right people. To answer your question then, with more opportunity, of course, there is more leeway in bringing people in from adjacent technologies and adjacent markets. So yeah, there is that opportunity where maybe as before, in certain modalities of AM, LPBF, DD, whatever that may be, people were searching for particular niche skill sets. Now, as the opportunity market begins to grow, what you'll find is requirements for entry sometimes do drop because of what I've just mentioned. There's so many opportunities, not enough candidates.
Yeah.
There has to be give somewhere. And so, yeah, there are people transitioning from different technologies, which is nice to see, because it means, you know, eventually there'll be more candidates with more experience and more education and more well-rounded, well-versed people. So yeah, I definitely do see that. Obviously, there is a huge challenge with filling the jobs, given the fact that they are defense-centric and they do require US citizens. So again, that reinforces that point that you've just made.
Yeah.
You will probably see over the next few years more transitioning of candidates from similar technology sets, because there's a demand and not enough people to meet the demand. So
That's right. I think obviously in clearance is a big topic of conversation. And, you know, one of the big things is if someone is out there working and they currently don't have clearance, but they might be a full US citizen, is it possible for them to kind of move into the defense sector? And is that something that's becoming more viable as an option?
definitely. And that's the issue, isn't it? And it's completely understandable. The projects that are focused around, you know, ITAR and very defense centric, then you need to be a full United States citizen. Of course, the issue is for candidate flow is that does eliminate a huge portion of the marketplace, especially within additive manufacturing. You know, you get a lot of people working in AM that are green card holders, or even are sponsored on a work visa. And even with a green card, a lot of these jobs are difficult to obtain given the tight security procedures in place. Even it's difficult to get on these projects with a green card, so it does limit your candidate pool. So yeah, I think that's something that needs to be encouraged. Of course, if you're working in markets that maybe aren't defense focused, but let's say, for example, you're working in additive manufacturing for medical or something like that. You know, medical is a highly regulated industry. It's very strict. It's certainly a transferable skill set.
I think another big point as well, which we should probably touch on in terms of this transition into, we're seeing a lot more production in defence, is the transition to bureaus, especially, you know, in commercial sectors, we're seeing that decline. But with contract manufacturing, bureau services growing 12% last year, you know, do you see that as a changing face of the market and the way that things might go in terms of where people are getting jobs?
I think it is the way that the market is going to go. And to be honest with you, I think it's where the market needs to go. Yeah, I mean, obviously, look, reverting back to what we said originally, the defense budget for additive manufacturing has raised from 1.8 billion to 3.3 billion. Well, obviously, the way that the defense market is right now and the way that the Department of Defense see additive manufacturing is mainly for applications that can be provided by service bureaus, right? They want parts, they want real world parts that are certified, that can be integrated into assemblies, or can focus on disrupting supply chain problems for the Department of Defense. Obviously, drone warfare is a huge thing right now many different conflicts. Obviously, the main one right now is Ukraine and Russia, and everyone's keeping their eyes on how drones are being used there. Obviously, additive manufacturing is a great example for how to quickly kind of churn products like that through the door. The way that's working in Ukraine right now is it's a lot of high volume stuff. So obviously 3D printing is very useful for high volume, cheap product as well. Again, a service that can be provided by a service bureau. So yeah, there's been an increase in service bureau business over the past few years now. I think that's the direction that it will continue to grow in, for sure. And personally, I think that's where the market does need to go. We spoke originally about real world applications and transitioning from demos and prototypes into actually producing things that are being used in real world applications. Obviously, service bureaus are the main kind of companies that can provide that level of service. You know, printing parts on site, certifying parts, shipping those parts out to customers. That's the way the market's going to continue to grow, by providing the real world service that, you know, fundamentally turns a profit, right? That's what it's about. So yeah, definitely.
And I suppose, finally, to touch on, from a recruitment perspective, how do you see the situation in terms of job seekers and employers? How do they need to adapt in this situation? What do they need to change in the way they're recruiting, and also the way people are going about looking for, you know, potential changes in work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think defense in general is a little bit different, and obviously defense across the piece is growing, which is natural and is good to see as well, specifically for additive within defense. And I think this is applicable for additive in general, because this idea that additive is growing isn't just solely a defense thing. You know, additive is growing across other markets as well.
Yeah.
And I think there's two things, and I've already touched on it slightly. Candidate-driven market is going to continue to be obvious, and that means it becomes more difficult for employers to find employees. So if we focus on the employers, what do they need to change? Is the way you current, the traditional way of recruiting in a niche market like additive is unlikely to work. And I think a lot of the players in additive manufacturing do already know this. Companies that are specifically built around additive, a lot of them, obviously, we work with a lot of them, or other companies within the market that recruit for additive manufacturing work with them. And I think a lot of companies, specifically within the AM circle, understand that it's quite a niche candidate pool to begin with. A lot of people already know each other already. And so you need a different approach to your recruitment, where you can have a trusted partner to go out there and communicate to people that are well connected within the market, and try and tempt people away from current opportunities that most of the time they're already content with. I think for the wider recruitment scene with regards to additive and defense, you know, large defense companies that are maybe trying to invest in additive, but they're not companies that are solely focused on additive, the one thing I would say is your traditional way of recruitment just isn't going to work, or at least 90% of the time it's not going to work, because of what I've just said. The majority of people in additive, they have a good network, they know each other, they know the technology, and they already have trusted recruiters that they work with. A lot of the candidates that we work with, the first place they come to when they want a new job is us. They pick up the phone, they speak to us. What does the market look like? Where's the opportunities right now? And if you don't have that kind of trusted advisor working for your team, you're probably going to get outperformed, if that's the right way to phrase it, or yeah, the best talent are going to go elsewhere because candidates are being pitched opportunities by those recruiters. So I suppose that's a pitch for our services, isn't it? You know, come and partner with us. But I think that really does. I think that is a good evaluation of where you need to be, and I think that's applicable across different industries as well. It's not just additive. You know, if you're looking into Industry 4.0 and whatever is to come afterwards, you know, AI and advanced software, robotics, automation, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There are niche recruitment firms that work in those sectors. We've already begun to open up those sectors because they relate to additive. A lot of our desks now recruit in robotics, AI, etc. But there are specific companies that do that. If you aren't partnered with those recruitment firms, those firms have the best connections with the best candidates. And so whatever company they're working with, those candidates are going to hear about that job first, before yours. Before they troll through job boards and do all the laborious work, they'll speak to their trusted recruitment partner and they'll get the jobs that they're working. So if you're not involved with a recruitment partner, you're probably missing out on a great portion of the talent, which, may I add, usually is passively looking, not actively. So you are eliminating 70% of your candidate pool, because only 30% of people at a time are looking. And so, second part of your question, I appreciate I probably gone on a little bit there.
Well, that's all a very important point. Connection's really important.
Definitely. I mean, and that kind of leads into my second point, you know, how's it going to change for candidates moving forwards? And I advise candidates to do exactly what I've just said for clients. Get yourself good relationships with recruiters, because of what I've just said. If you are in touch with a good, trusted recruitment firm that understands the market that you work in, you are going to be one of the first people when they get relevant jobs that they will reach out to. The first thing I do when I get a job, and it's a complex job, let's say it's R&D for materials, or you know, design for a certain kind of technology, and it's difficult to find people like that, well, 9 times out of 10, we already know who they are and they're on my database. And so it saves me a lot of time. Just go on there, make a phone call, 3 or 4 phone calls later, you've probably got a profile to share with the client. And if you can, as a candidate, can put yourself in that pool, you're just making yourself available for opportunities. Even if you're not actively looking, do it now, because things go wrong. And defense is a key example, right? Money stops all the time. You know, money ends up getting allocated somewhere else, and another project's more important, and so funding dries up or whatever. It's too late when you are actively on the market. Future-proof yourself, get a good relationship with a recruiter that understands the market, and then they can feed you things passively. And so you're never in that lurch most of the time where you end up out of a job and then you begin to, well, you panic sometimes, don't you? You begin to furiously go through job boards and try to build connections, lay the groundwork before you're even in that position. That's what I would say. So I suppose my answer to both of those questions is get a relationship with a good recruiter, whether you are a company or a candidate. It's beneficial to everyone.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's a really good point. And obviously, I think AM across, like you said, all those different technologies, you know, recruitment and the market is changing pretty quickly. And I think having a connection where you can have those valuable contacts in different parts of the industry and open up those opportunities is more important than ever. So thanks very much, Jordan, for breaking all that down.
Yeah.
It obviously goes without saying, whether you're job hunting or you're hiring, feel free to reach out to us, and specifically Jordan for this is his area of expertise, and we can help guide you in terms of your recruitment strategy or maybe that next job search. So yeah, thank you very much. Definitely. And cheers for your time, Jordan.
Yeah, no problem. Likewise. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.